So in the past 4 years, there have been 10 live-action remakes released by Disney, with an average audience score of 65% and an average critic score of 56.7%. Needless to say, most of us have gotten fed up of live-action remakes, and it's about time Disney realized that they have to change things up if they want to get anywhere. But let's back up. Why did Disney even start producing these soulless live-action copies? Well, that's a good question, and some would say it's a pretty easy cash grab. And I would be enticed to agree, but there's more to it than you think. So let's talk about that. See, you might not be aware of it, but Disney started making live-action movies in the 90s, with a Jungle Book remake and an 101 Dalmatians remake. Their justification at the time, they wanted to get a new generation of viewers familiar with their earlier animated classics, while banking on the nostalgia of older folks at the time. But not only that, they also wanted to truly recreate these stories, not just make a live-action carbon copy of the original. And that's what they did. Like Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland being a whole new take on the enchanting world, Maleficent being told from the perspective of Sleeping Beauty's evil fairy, Maleficent, The Jungle Book and Cinderella being refreshingly good takes on their older counterparts. These remakes are actually remakes, who would have thunk? Making an effort to improve and tell new versions of the stories that we've seen before. Not only that, these stories are much older and benefit from a new, fresh take on the tale, while not being as familiar to audiences as the Disney Renaissance movies. And that brings me to point number 1, why Disney remakes need to stop. Simply put, the death of creativity. The creativity, flair, and uniqueness of past remakes has been completely lost. The remakes we've gotten recently are basically the same stories, characters, with very little new to them. Apart from 1 or 2 songs. Okay, bravo, hallelujah, Disney, what an effort. It's obvious now that there's little passion and creativity with these movies anymore. Disney just churning them out as a pure cash grab. For example, if you didn't know, they're already planning a Moana remake. What? A movie that came out 10 years ago? It doesn't need a remake. It's so ridiculous and clear evidence of Disney's intentions. Like, who are you remaking this movie for? It's crazy, and the loss of originality has been obvious in projects recently with The Lion King, Aladdin, The Little Mermaid. Disney is increasingly relying on established intellectual properties instead of taking risks with fresh, innovative ideas. This overdependence on remakes stifles creativity and contributes to a homogenized cinematic landscape where familiarity takes precedence over original storytelling, which is so sad. But there's an even bigger issue here, that all of these movies are bound to be disappointments. Now hear me out. If you're not creating anything new, and rather just basically giving people copies of the animated movies they cherish, it's going to be a disappointment and an annoyance for most viewers. You're creating shitty movies that are going to be compared with monumental animated classics. Like, what do you expect? It just makes no sense. These original animated classics were often groundbreaking in their storytelling, in their animation techniques, in their artistic vision. Attempting to recreate these works in live action often falls short of capturing the essence and magic of the original. And that brings me back to the point that I made at the very beginning of this video. The average audience score being 65%. That tells you all you need to know about people's thoughts on these live action remakes. It should honestly be considered a failure for such a historically legendary business like Disney. So far, in my opinion, no live action remakes lived up to the standard of their predecessor. Not even this next movie. See, The Lion King is the most successful Disney movie and remake to date, making over $1 billion at the global box office, which is
crazy.
And technically, I know it is not a live action remake per se, but it still counts. Now, I'm a Lion King diehard, and I think there are some things that are amazing about this movie, like the soundtrack and score, once again headed up by Hans Zimmer, but it's so damn hard to produce the same charisma with CGI animals than with animated animals. Animals in real life just are not that expressive, at least not to the untrained human eye. Like, I'm sorry, like, it's hard to tell animal emotion. So honestly, the characters, in my opinion, look really damn soulless. Just despite doing incredible numbers at the box office, Disney failed once again to capture the magic from the animated version, which at the end of the day is supposed to be the point, right? And that brings us to the real reason why I truly don't understand their insistence for continuing to make live action remakes. I'm going to touch on something that's more baffling than anything I've touched on up to this point. Making live action remakes doesn't even make business sense or financial sense, which is supposed to be the whole point. They're spending just as much money, if not more, on their original movies than on the remakes. Encanto was around 150, Onward was around 200, Raya and the Last Dragon was around 100, and Wish was around 200 million. So if the remakes aren't even cheaper to make, then why bother? A lot of them are flops anyway.
I think he's got a point.
If Disney dedicated all that time, effort, and money on original ideas and movies, trust me when I say it would be significantly more profitable. This becomes even more evident when you realize that the top grossing animated Disney films have already been remade. So the results in box office revenue is only going to go down from here. So please, if you could take anything from this video, channel all of that money, all that time, all that effort into original ideas for once, and stop trying to squeeze every single dollar out of previous generations. Not only that, if your goal is to get new generations to love and be familiar with your old works, it's not working, I'd say. I'd say you're probably doing the opposite and alienating your audience instead of captivating them, which at the end of the day is what Disney movies should be about. The magic of storytelling. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below, if you agree, disagree. I always respond to all of them, and I'll be pinning my favorite comments. So yeah, go for it. Like the video if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.